What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another episode of New Orleans Basketball and New Orleans Network podcast. As always, I'm your host, Raphael Rattler, joined by my fellow middle brother, Garrett G. Money Bradley. What's poppin' with you, bro?
What up, bro? Everything's all good on this side, man. Enjoying some rest and relaxation in between travel schedules and all of that. And man, it's the dog days of the NBA offseason. All of the major free agents have been signed. All of the major moves have been signed. You got a lot of noise about where's Al Horford going. That's where we are right now in the NBA offseason. But I mean, these days are for the sickos. You are like we always hear about the greatest athletes of all time. They always find something to drive them, something to give them that extra edge, and that's what we're doing. We're going to find something to give us that extra edge. We're going to talk some Pels lineups today, which I'm excited about with all of these new additions and people departing and coming in. So I'm excited to get into that, man. How's everything on your side?
Everything is blessed. Like you said, it is that lull time in basketball season when everybody goes overseas, everybody gets away from their teammates, everybody kind of resets a little bit, coming back, working on different things. And that goes the same for media too. So I'm excited as well. To be honest with you, I told you, like, this is my most fun part of the season because you really get to like look at what moves teams have made and kind of hypothesize about what they can be before you actually see it and before injuries happen, all the things like that. You turn the injury sliders off. So this is my fun time of the season, especially when it comes to the Pelicans. Before we get into anything, make sure you guys are following us on X, on Twitter, on TikTok. That's NO_basketball, no E. Make sure you are liking the episode below. And if you're not already, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. So there's been a lot of talks. Obviously, the Pelicans have been in the media this summer, have been in the news this summer. And latest, the projected win totals for teams are starting to roll out. The Pelicans are at 30 to 31.5. Not good. Looks like they're going to finish close to the bottom. But what we want to do today, we'll just kind of take a look at the roster and kind of take a look at what the projected start out will be. The craziest thing to me, Garrick, is like every graphic I see on ESPN, every random projected Pelican starter lineup, Herb Jones is on the bench. And they just gave this man a 3-year, multi-million-dollar contract extension, double digits. And I just don't see the correlation. So we'll go with what we think the projected start out will be. Now, that being said, there's a lot of time between now and training camp, knock on wood, and there's a whole training camp for these things to sort themselves out. But we'll just go based off what the money is telling us and what people's positions have told us up in this part. So as far as like the starting lineup, let's start there. First off, Garrett, we have talked about positions, and Joe Dumars has talked about positions himself, about the idea of positionless basketball, where no matter if you're 6'6", if you're the center, but you could dribble, you are always on the attack on the offensive end, and you're always able to guard on the defensive end. And so if I had to say who's starting at the one for the Pelicans, I'm going to say the answer is Zion Williamson. And if you really listen to what Willie Green has said, you know, in the latter parts of last season when Zion was kind of doing this thing before they shut him down after the Minnesota win and things like that, he kind of talks to wait, and he corrects some of the people in the media. He's like, no, Zion was at the one. No, Zion was the point guard in those lineups. And I think, again, with Joe Dumars coming out and Troy Weaver coming out and their actions being louder than their words about doubling down on Zion, it doesn't make sense to bring another guy in like a Jordan Poole, who we'll get to, who is going to dominate the ball more than said Zion. That just doesn't make it, especially how you saw Zion come down the stretch. So if Zion's the one, I'm going to put Jordan Poole at the 2 because DeJounte Murray is going to miss some time. And even when he does come time, you've got to kind of play himself in the rhythm and play himself into who the new body of DeJounte Murray will be. But then after that, I think Trey and Herb it doesn't matter who's the 3 or 4 because they're going to be guarding different people based off body types, athleticism, skill sets, length, things like that. And then obviously Ease Meese's anchoring in your 5. So if you've got those 5 in Zion, Jordan Poole, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, and Ease Meese, what are your honest thoughts about that, right? Like you see that on paper, it looks like a lineup. People outside of New Orleans going to have an opinion on Jordan Poole and everything else, things like that. But from what your thoughts are, based on how the West looks, what are the things that jump off the page?
Yeah, I think, Zion is the ultimate, like lineup position flex when you think about, the type of player that he is. That sort of player gives you a lot of flexibility. You look around the league, you look at Luka Doncic and LeBron, you look at Giannis, you look at, Jokic. Obviously, Jokic plays the 5, but on offense, it's a lot different than what you see, from traditional centers and even some point centers. It's very, very different. Guys like Jason Tatum, like, he plays the 4 for Boston a lot, but, on offense, he's the initiator, right? He's also one of the guys that leads the team in assists. Zion is in that mold as well. And so, if you've been following this podcast, we've been talking about Zion at the point guard for a couple of years now, especially going into this season. When you think about, DeJounte being out, who do you trust with the ball in their hands at this point, right? And really, it's Zion, right? And he's shown you, you talk about what Willie Green has said and what Troy Weaver has said and what Joe Dumars has said, and that's all fine and dandy. You don't really need to listen to what they say. Just like watch what happens on the floor as the ball. And so I think, with that lineup, there's obviously, there's the newness of it all, right? Like these guys, this 5-man collective has never played a single bounce on the court together. Jordan Poole just arriving in New Orleans. And so the first question is, how fast can you gain some of this chemistry, with that starting lineup? And I do think that it has a lot of things that is working well for them, right? You have Jordan Poole, who can play, who has played, has shown that he can play off the ball, right? He got asked to be on the ball and, in Washington, and he saw that wasn't something that he was comfortable at it, but it didn't produce wins, didn't produce anything of, substantial success. Now you have a guy, that you could come play off his gravity. And Zion is one of those guys that like everybody knows. This isn't like, is Jordan Poole gonna have to come in? Everybody knows. DeJounte's first introductory press conference, he spoke about Zion being the superstar. Jordan Poole understands that exact same thing. And so you have a guy that can play off the ball, has had some experience playing off the ball, and that leads to success, and can shoot the ball, right? And will shoot the ball at a volume clip. I think that right there is a good piece to have next to Zion, especially when the closeouts come. He's a guy that can attack those closeouts. And then I think the questions come with Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. And what I mean by questions is the consistency from both, right? But on different levels. Where is Trey Murphy right now, right? Is he the guy that we saw for most of last season? Now that he's coming off an injury, is he the guy that we saw most of last season who was taking leaps and bounds and another leap and another leap? It looked like every other game he was doing something else that you were like, oh, this is new. It led to me saying that he's just as dangerous off of 1-2 dribbles as catching and shooting. And that's saying a lot for a guy who was in a 3-point contest, who can do a lot of things that way, and it was also in the dunk contest. And so there's just a lot to like, with Trey Murphy. But where is he coming into this season once he comes back off the injury? And the same thing for Herb Jones. But for me, it's more about that corner 3-pointer. Listen, I think that Herb can do a lot of different things on the court defensively. There was a time, again, 2 seasons ago, I kept saying it into this microphone, this one right here, that Herb Jones was not only shooting well from the corner, he was shooting like almost 70% from the corner 3, from like a certain corner 3. And we kept begging, make that the spot, right? I want to see Herb do all of these different things, right? But I think if you can make one skill on offense, just one spot to be 1 or 2 spots on the court, those corner 3-pointers, you can make that your green zone, your lethal zone. Shout out to 2K. If you could just make those two spots, that opens up a lot because Zion is going to be attacking down the middle of the floor. You're going to have Jordan Poole running around doing things. Trey is going to be spotting out at the half court line. Those corner threes are going to be the spots, and Eves is going to be in that dunker position. Those corner threes are going to be the spots that's going to be open for Herb, and if he can make those his home spots, I think that unlocks this starting lineup to another level. And then Eves, with his ability to rim protect and gain some more confidence on the offensive end, I think if you just look at this team, obviously the shooting between Herb and Zion and Eves will be the one thing that everybody is like, well, who's gonna make the shot? There's not a lot of spacing, but I think Zion is such a unique player. And I think, on the offensive side that he can stir the drink. And I think defensively, it's a team that has switchable defenders, a lineup that has switchable defenders on between Zion, Herb, and Trey, and Eves can come out and do some things. Jordan Poole will compete on the defensive end. And again, he averaged 1 over a steal a game, so he can do some defensive playmaking abilities. But I think the starting 5 has a good balance of offense and defense. Is it perfect? No. Is it the best starting 5 in the league? Absolutely not. But it has a good balance of offensive ability and with a dominant shot creator and a very, very, a very capable secondary option in Trey Murphy. And I think defensively it has some ways to mash Jordan Poole if it needs to be that with Eves, playing the defensive anchor. I like the starting 5 lineup. I don't think that it's a bad lineup at all. And it's part of the reason where I say, okay, well, who on this team, in that starting lineup, are you helping off of? You completely not helping, you're not guarding Herb Jones or Eves Messi. It's fine, but I think there's playmakers that can hit the lobs and get to the rim and do things like that make the defense pay. So I like the starting 5.
There's a couple things, and I agree with a lot of the points you made, but there's a couple things that kind of stand out to me, and then a couple of questions that need to be answered as you figure this thing out, right, along the way. So let's start with Zion at the point. Again, like, he's talked about being a guard. We've pounded our fist on the table for years and saying that he plays more like a guard than he does a back to the basket bit forward. And I think his body will hold up better as a guard than as a back to the basket forward, battling with 4s all the time. But really, like, the biggest thing that you'd notice after watching again in small sample sizes of Zion's game is that even though he's a superstar and can finish at the rim at an unprecedented rate, like Giannis, like Shaq, like, he still is a very unselfish player and sometimes to a fault. And those type of players tend to make for really good playmakers and really good decision makers, because if you combine his IQ with the game, like, that's one of the most tragic parts about not being able to watch Zion so far throughout the course of his career, is that you haven't been able to see his kind of full game, 1, and 2, his game grow from seasons to season, because there have been spurts when Zion's been healthy and he's gotten a feel and the rhythm for the game where he's in total control of the game, where he is able to know where everyone's going to be, needs to be, and positions himself accordingly, both as a playmaker, both as a scorer. And like, I don't think the world has been able to see that piece yet. And that's why people like Zion at point guard. But I look at, what Cade Cunningham did last season for the Pistons. Again, no one's the same body size as Zion, but they're about the same height, and they play at different speeds, but in control of their speeds, both in the same way. And I look at how Detroit kind of came out the ashes like a phoenix last year. And I think that and I know that in order for the Pelicans to do the same, you're going to need the 2024 Cade Cunningham year out of Zion. As a primary facilitator, as a ball handler. And so going into summer, my biggest question for him is like, can you get even better at the handle? There are times where the handle gets sloppy a little bit, and that's what people say, well, when he gets pressure from a guard, is that for 94 feet, is that something he's going to be able to do? But I look at his assist to turnover ratio, and I think that's where he needs to kind of lend more to controlling the ball and taking care of the ball. Like, I look at Shea last year, 3-1, 6 assists, 2 steal or 2 turnovers. Zion was 5-3. If you can turn the ball over less and distribute a little bit more, and a lot of that just comes from being on the court more, like it just having a rhythm and feel for your teammates. I think that's what, again, propels the Pelicans to be a little bit different, because to your point, like from Jordan Poole's perspective, no, he's not a great on-ball defender. I don't think he ever will be, but he has the athleticism to hold his own. And I think that like it's funny when people put people in buckets, like when PJ Washington or Daniel Gafford leaves Washington and then they go become a good player for a winning team, or Kristaps Porzingis leaves Washington and then goes and becomes a winning player in a different role on a winning team. Why couldn't that be the same situation for Jordan Poole? When you're asking him to do less, you've seen how you could grow and how you can be impactful in this league. Why couldn't that be next to a player like Zion, a winning situation?
Well, the difference with Jordan Poole is that he came from being a winning player. Like he won a championship on the Warriors team. And again, that team had Steph and Clay and Draymond. It had the Hall of Famers. Go back and watch Jordan Poole performance in the playoffs and you know, on that run to get there's a reason why he got the name Poole Party and all of that while he was in Golden State and not while he was in Washington. So I like he has he's been there. Like he has experienced being a good player. And again, he's coming to the Pelicans as a different stage of his career, at, you know, matured, gotten older. I just go back to what Bob Carrington is speaking about, you know, in his exit interview when he was talking about not seeing Jordan Poole in the locker room and like how that hurt him. And this is a young, you know, super duper young guy. You got a lot of guys on his team that's not as young as some of those guys were in Washington. So you got to think that there's a little bit of respect, and he'll be able to come in and fit in, you know, with better talent around.
Right. Exactly. And again, like, the role is changing. I think you're asking him to, it's almost the same role as CJ, right? Well, CJ, we always said, is probably best suited as a sixth man, but you're asking him in this situation where you would, in a perfect world, probably want to start DeJounte Murray, because that gives you the most athletic lineup you can and a most switchable lineup that you can have. But that's not the perfect world that we live in, doesn't exist for the Pelicans franchise. So that being said, like, you're asking him to be the two guard and to play off ball. And he actually was slightly better in the catch and shoot situation than CJ McCollum was last year. They're both volume 3-point shooters. Actually, Jordan Poole shot more threes over his career, over these past couple of years, than CJ McCollum has. And so, like, if you're just asking him to be a younger, more athletic version of CJ next to a healthy Zion, I think it's a really good role for him in a situation where you're motivated not only to be successful in this situation, but like your next contract's not that far away. And either this can go one of two ways. You rebuild your value, and in a year when DeJounte Murray is healthy, or 15 months, 18 months, 24 months after the surgery, and Jeremiah Fears is in year 2, and then the Pelicans are looking at the roster like there's got to be some decisions at ball handler, you're in a good spot, because either they're forced to pay you or someone else is willing to take your expiring to give you a chance. And so he's motivated to have the best, because this is a turning point of his career. And so I think from Jordan Poole's perspective, he's in a position to thrive in this particular offense. Now, you mentioned the Herb Jones and the Ease-Measy combo, and I think that's the biggest question mark of this starting five. Both of their ability on defense makes up for, again, we'll get to Trey and Zion, but it makes up for Jordan Poole, because both of them excel past their years. I guess Herb is not young anymore, but past their years, they're able to cover up for so much more and allow other people to be more aggressive and use their athleticism and take chances. And if those guys are on the court, the defense is substantially better. Like after game 2, I think it was, I mean, there wasn't that many games of Herb Jones, but I tapped you on the shoulder and was like, if you squint and you kind of take a step back, Herb Jones and Ease-Measy look like variants of one another. It's just one's got a 21 and one's got a 2. Like, and the way that they move and how their length and the ability to make up ground on help side defense or whatever it may be, that's the special piece. And when we talk about the Pelicans being a defensive team, they're going to be your engine. The problem is the flip side for both of those guys. Again, like you talk about the 3-point shot from Herb, and I think that's so crucial to this team. I think her being able to reproduce what he did before the injury, the year before his injury, the 40% or 38%, 39%, just opened up the floor so much more for everyone else. Yes, he didn't shoot great in the playoffs. No one was great in the playoffs. But like just his ability and the threat by like mid-season when people are like, oh, wait, man, he actually can shoot. Like that just gives Trey one more step. That gives Zion one more step. Go ahead.
I just think about what we just saw from the championship winning Thunder. Like you have Shea, you have Jalen Williams, you have Chet Holmgren. Imagine if Lou Dort was a 30% three-point shooter instead of a 37% three-point shooter where he was. If he was just only able to play one side of the ball, that whole even with those three super max players and those MVP candidates, the tenor of that team is not the same if Lou Dort can't hit 37% of his three-point shots. That's what I'm looking at when I talk about Herb's three-point percentage.
Right.
Go ahead.
And you're absolutely right. And so is he able to reproduce that or get back to form there? Again, I'm not sure where he's at in terms of his rehab. I hope he's been able to shoot. But again, this is a player who the summer before locked himself in the gym and said, I'm going to learn how to shoot threes, and came back and shot 40%. So for a guy who's probably missed more time than he's ever missed in his basketball career, something tells me Herb is itching to show what he can add on the three-point net. But it's not just the three-point net. This is the same. I had the same conversation for Eves, or thought process for Eves, as for Herb Jones. It's not just can you space the floor, can you be in the dunker spot, because I think playing with more talent is going to help Eves altogether with DeJounte available. Jordan Poole is a better playmaker than CJ McCollum. Trey taking another step playmaking. Jeremiah Fierce. There's more guys to make basketball easier for Eves Misi, but it's just the threat of offense. Like Herb was really starting to come into his own as a cutter, right? Like there were these just perfectly timed cuts where he was learning to be a dangerous weapon in that regard. Because Herb is 6'8" and athletic himself, right? So being a threat on his own, just outside of just catch and shoot three, is so important to this team. It's the same thing for Eves Misi. We've talked all summer and all last season. Just being a threat, not just being in the dunker position, but when you have an advantage on a small, when you see an open lane, you're faster than 90% of the other centers in the league. So you probably can get 1-2 dribbles and get to the rim before they contest or before they block your shot. And so just having the confidence from both of those guys on that end, I think it separates, and it's going to be the determining factor on how successful this starting lineup is. Because if we talk about previous years, even the year when Zion played 65 games and Brandon Ingram played 55 games and JV and all those guys were available, the starting lineup was still negative, which meant they still couldn't defend and they still had to figure out some iteration. I think, again, with these five, I think with rhythm and getting some type of cohesion together, they can perfectly suit each other's skill set. Like this is the first time you look at the starting lineup and you're like, oh, this makes sense. Like, oh, you have a defender, or you have a major three-point shooter, or you have two creators, you have a rim protector. Oh, okay. This is a lineup that actually makes it. This is the first time in a long time I think you've been able to say that about the starting five. I think the major domino here, and we talked about this on previous podcasts, Zion and Trey's defense, not just their on-ball defense and what they're able to do, but their ability to rebound, I think is going to be so crucial to this team's success, whether it goes one way or the other. I think, again, Zion's going to be able to score. And if, to your point, if Trey continues to take steps on the offensive end, and you really love what you saw on the sample size before he got hurt, even when he was asked to be the 1 and 2 options on most nights, his best skill set is his ability to shoot the ball. That complements Zion. So then you take Zion off the court, and now he's got that confidence to go be a playmaker himself with tools that will supplant and to add to his skill set. I think that's only good for him. But the defensive end and being able to be positionless and say, okay, tonight you got the Clippers. Zion, you got Kawhi because that's the body type. Trey, you need to go either give James Harden fits or whoever it may be. That's what it is. Okay, tonight you got the Nuggets. Zion, you got Aaron. Like you're going to have to be able to move around your pieces that way. That's the whole idea of having multiple wings. But those two being plus defenders, so I'm talking about active defenders, the same way you look at Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and J-Dub, like guys who are both on the blocks and both on the steals and both in the passing leg, and not just like the Luka defenders where it's like, oh, I get steals because I wait till you're not looking and then I get the steal. But active defenders where people aren't challenging you and calling you out consistently, wearing you out on the offensive end, that's going to be the determination from that. Where do you see their ceilings from a defensive stand? Do you think they can average 14 to 15 rebounds combined, right? About 7 apiece, 8 apiece, because I think those two areas will create and cause for the rest.
I think they can get close. I worry about Trey's rebounding simply because of where he's going to be on the offensive side of the ball. So I think with Zion is going to be he's going to be able to get a lot of rebounds, because whether he's driving to pass, he'll be at the rim maybe for an open shot, or he's one of the best offensive rebounders the game has seen. So he can get a lot of offensive rebounds off his second jump. The defensive side of the ball, again, is going to be about their effort, how they come into the season. It's the number one question I've had about Zion is, can we get game 1 and not be talking about give me till game 15, to get into shape, come into shape. It's gonna show itself on the defensive side of the ball and on the boards. And so I think both of them can be plus defenders for sure. Zion for sure. I saw Zion look like one of the best wing defenders, maybe not on ball wing, because he was still doing some on ball stuff, but just like a whirlwind, just playing in the passing lanes. We all remember the blocks at the 3-point line, and things like that. Again, one of my favorite plays that Zion does is when Herb or Jose is pressuring the ball and they dribble it to the middle of the floor and they turn around and Zion is the other way with it. That comes from a guy that is, and we talked about this like last season. There were times at the beginning of last season where you could see Zion's head wanting to make plays on the defensive side of the ball. You could see him like he's a step slow, or he doesn't go for it, but you could see his head saying, man, I could go for it. And then as he started to get into shape more and to play more, you started seeing him take chances, go for blocks, go for steals. That's what being in shape and does for you. And I think that Zion, with his uniqueness, able to guard, like you said, he could guard Aaron Gordon. We saw him pick up Kawhi Leonard.
Versus Kyrie.
I saw him guarding. That's what I'm saying. And the same dude sitting down versus Kyrie, guarding Jaylen Brown at the top of the key, guarding Anthony Edwards. We remember that game in the Smoothie King Center between him and Anthony Edwards, and them talking and going at it. Like, that is the kind of defensive impact that Zion can have. And I think that a lot of his defensive impact can be loud. It can be steals. It can be blocks. It can be standing up a guard up with 5 seconds on the shot clock because you moving your feet and they can't get around you. Like, those are loud defensive plays that Zion is very capable of making, but it's only going to be when he comes into shape game 1, day 1. And so him and Trey can do some things on the defensive side of the ball. But in the event that you don't, you got a first team all defender on the wing. And that's why, again, to your point, Zion and Trey are probably the biggest questions in this. And I mean, like, outside of the shooting between Eves and Herb, but outside of that it's about where can they go? Because you've seen the highest of highs from both of them. You've also seen the lowest of lows from both of them. And if there's a variance there, and if Zion and Trey can get anywhere close to where we're talking about that Zion towards the middle and before he got shut down last season, and Trey before he got shut down with his injury last season, those guys look like a formidable 1-2 punch. So much so that Brandon Ingram plays basketball in a different country now. So I think that those guys, they can come in, and if they can come in game 1 in shape and locked in and ready. Obviously, Trey is going to be coming off his injury, but I think it comes down to Zion and their defensive ceiling. I think is going to be led by Zion, because I think Trey should be okay on the defensive side of the ball because of his length and athleticism. But I think Zion has the ability to be a next level defender, an impact defender, and if he can come into the season in shape and everything, I think the defensive ceiling is very high.
Again, the number I'm looking for is rebounding, like 14 combined, like 7 and 7 or 8 and 6 or something like that. Just because I think Zion can be a stacked sheet stuffer when he plays 32 minutes a game. I think he can get close to 9 rebounds a game, sort of like Jason Tatum. And the other one is 2 stocks. Can you give me a steal in the block for both of them? I don't think Zion was averaging 2 steals per game at the end of
I think that's
low.
not out of the realm of possibility at all. Yeah, yes, indeed. Hell
yeah. Again, like those are the questions for the starting lineup, and which way that it turns will probably determine the success of the Pelicans. But let's get to the bench, because here's what I think is the most fun, and here's where I think there's a lot of room for mistakes and injuries, right? Because the injury is going to happen to somebody we just talked about in the starting lineup before at some point in the season. So these guys are going to have to be the ones that hold you down during that time period, as long as they don't all get injured too, like in 2024. So,
you mean like the prize rookie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's get to the bench. So my first question to you, and this is kind of an interesting question, depending on how much Pelicans basketball you watch. Like, does Zion or Trey have to be on the floor at all times? One of the two. Obviously, everyone wants to stagger their 2 players, their 2 best players. But like, are you in a situation where you need to have one of them to generate offense? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a very interesting question. I tend to say yes. And it's only because I don't know where DeJounte Murray is going to be when he gets back. Because I saw Jordan Poole lead the team.
Point guard.
Right. And then like some of the guys and then the rest of the guys off the bench, while they are exciting, they're either unproven or like they're not generating offense. And what I mean by that is like Jose is great. You know, Jeremiah Fears is still young and unproven with his shot. Derik Queen is hurt. I think to start this season off, you should be able to stagger them. Now, you can stagger them, meaning like you can sit Trey or Zion down, and I think that you could sit them for maybe a little longer than you would, you know, at some point if you needed to, in the event that you need to. Mm-hmm. You do have, I think, reserves off the bench that can do that. Whereas there are some other times where I was like, I know Zion just sat down, but I know, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know Trey just like sat down, but like, it just went from like down 6 to down like 11 really quickly. It's like, I think you do have that in guys off the bench, and like some of the guys that are starting can also be like drive the bench a little bit in second units in situations. But if you ask me today on July 29th, right now coming into the season, I do think that you probably need Trey and Zion in the lineups that we made. That we did. We gonna talk about later. The ones we're looking forward to, all of them have either Trey or Zion.
I hear you. Okay, fair enough. So here's why.
But give me.
Here's where my head goes. So first off, I need to see a little bit more of decision making from Trey Murphy, because there was times during last season when Zion was out and everybody else was out, and again, he's not put in a situation to succeed when random guys are being signed off the streets and signing with the Pelicans to start. Mm-hmm. There were times where, like, obvious times where superstars and like all-star players see an open lane and say, no one can stop me from getting to the rim, especially if I got second place in the dunk contest at 6'10", where I saw Trey like thinking, like, should I shoot this step back 3? Should I shoot this midi? Versus just like attacking the rim. And there was that stretch in like January where Trey was getting to the line at a spot where you're like, okay, yeah, that guy might be a predatory wing. And then like it kind of died down at the end of the season. I want him to keep that green, like the Jaylen Brown mentality that if I touch the ball, I'm probably in a position to score, right? Either the guy in front of me can't stay in front of me, or it's a catch and shoot situation and it's going up.
So no, this is great, because I think this goes to like what I think about the bench, meaning that I think that you could sit Zion and have Trey out there and his role be different, meaning he's still the number 1 option, but I think you have enough guys that like he doesn't need to be the predatory wing playmaking decision maker every single time down. There's going to be plays where he can't do it, where you play off of it. But I think, and again, this goes into our bench conversation, You got guys like Jeremiah Fears, who again is unproven, but he showed that like he's able to find guys, and things like that. You have a guy like like Jordan Poole. We see in the comments, Jordan Poole can do some of that, and then you have Jose, who had a career year last year, who can also do some decision making as well. Not in big spurts, right? You don't want him starting on days. I think Derik Queen can make some decisions from down in the post. Obviously, he needs to cut down on the turnovers, but you saw the playmaking chops. So I think there are ways to use Trey as, okay, Zion is down, but if you aren't ready to be the Jaylen Brown, meaning like that guy's out, I'm still on go, I'm going down and attacking every single time and generating, stirring this drink on offense. Why can't you have an offense, and this goes what we talked about with coaching last season, an offense with Trey in it that was like Alfred Payton when he was just coming down and hitting shooters and hitting people, and Trey just be the beneficiary of playing off of catch and shoots, playing off of driving and catching, playing off of closing out on closeouts, attacking closeouts. You can do some of those things. So I agree with you that like Trey for sure you need to see more of that aggression, more of that primary playmaking responsibility that kind of duty calls for. But I do think, to your point about the first question, maybe you do need to have him out there as just kind of like the gravity. But I think you don't need to have him as like, okay, Zion is down, move up the chain. You're now the primary playmaker every time down. We're running the offense through you. You could do that for 60% of the time, but 40%, we have a Jose out there. And again, that goes to when DeJounte gets back and how that supplements that. So go ahead with your Trey Murphy point. I just wanted to bounce off that.
No, you led right into my point, because again, like we're talking out of two sides of our mouths in some degree. Like we've been screaming for years, the Pelicans need to run a Celtics-like offense where it's wing dominant and you're hunting mismatch. Just like everywhere, the NBA, KD and LeBron are drinking wine, talking about hunting 6'2" guards. Like the Pelicans need to do that because they had Brandon Ingram. They had Zion Williamson. They had that ability. I do think that that's what the Pelicans leaned into last season, because they had so many guys that needed the ball and that could take advantage of mismatch. It's just so happened that all of those guys got injured. So and we talked to coaching. It just so happens that when your roster changes, your philosophy needs to change as well with your roster, right? Like it's players, not plays, right? The Pelicans kept running a wing-centric offense when they didn't have the ability to take advantage of the defenders, right? And so going into this season,
go ahead. God bless CJ. God bless CJ with those dribble handoffs, man. God bless
your dribble handoff into Lou Dort. Like it wasn't going anywhere, right? And so the second part of and where the NBA is going, and every team is now saying, look at the Pacers, look at the Thunder. They're 10, 11 guys deep. I think people are going to have more answers to the test than maybe ever, where you have one offense with this group of players, and then you have a different offense with this group of players, and you have a different offense with this. I just think more and more people are going to come up with different facets of their team that can beat different answers or beat different lineups for other teams in the West, right? And so when I look at that, yes, when Zion is on the court, give the ball to Zion and then figure the rest out, right? Like revolve the offense around him. When he sits down, to your point, I think there should be a balance of, well, Trey still hunting the mismatch because you're still a conundrum, 6'9" that can shoot at half court, but also can put you through the rim. Like you can still take mismatches, but at the same time, you added a Jeremiah Fears. You added a Derik Queen, who I think, again, needs to be a big part of this offense once he gets healthy, because he can be the low post. And that's how you minimize his lack of three-point shooting up until this point, is give him the ball, right? And let him be the non-shooter on the court and have Trey and Jordan Poole and Jordan Hawkins and Carlo around him so that you don't feel the lack of shooting so much. And I couldn't agree with you more that there just needs to be more of that worked in. Like now you've got all these different puzzle pieces with different skill sets, with the ability to get their own and to play off ball. How do you mix and match those things? Like, is Jordan Hawkins movement shooter? Can you get 5 minutes out of that per game? Like different things like that needs to be figured out as far as this bench goes. Now, a question that I'm almost not putting as a question, I'm always put it as a statement, is that like, I think the Saddiq Bey acquisition is not like a nice throw-in. I think it was like, damn, you needed that player. I see somebody in the comments right now saying, I still miss Najee. I couldn't agree more.
What up, West Bank?
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. Just you needed that nastiness. You needed somebody else that could kind of throw something different in the game that people aren't prepared for, that you need on a random back-to-back Wednesday night in the middle of the season, right? I think you needed something like that. But here's the thing with Saddiq Bey. First of all, shout out to him. He's over there getting runs right now. Looks healthy, looks spry, getting up, done. It's been, 16 months since the ACL, so he should be finding back to himself. But the bigger part of that, and the bigger part of missing Najee Marshall and Dyson Daniels, is that you didn't have that big body guy. Again, we just talked about the starting lineup. Zion is that big body guy in the starting lineup to go match up versus Julius Randle, whoever it may be. But off the bench, you were throwing a bunch of skinny guy, Brandon Boston, Antonio Reeves, and I know that they're getting picked up, but like those guys are fighting for their lives versus grown 6'8" wings. Now you got another guy in Saddiq Bey who can stand in front of those guys. But not only that, like, this is going to sound crazy, but statistically it's correct. Outside of CJ McCollum and Trey Murphy, nobody else on the Pelicans roster, nobody else in the Zion era has made over 153s in a season. Nobody else. You just added Jordan Poole and Saddiq Bey, who both have done that more times than not in their career. Like, that's a different level of shooting that, again, you love what you got from Najee Marshall, but like, he shot 38% from the Pelicans. Did anyone take a look at what Najee Marshall shot from three this season? It wasn't good, right? So he's not a three-point shooter. Saddiq Bey is a three-point shooter who plays. He is a 3-and-D player. And so that type of player, not only being able to give you another big body defender off the bench, but being a real three-point shooter who, listen, like, sometimes he might need to close instead of Jordan Poole. He may need to close instead of Herb Jones because he's a bigger threat from the three-point line and he can defend as well. And so, like, I just think that the acquisition of Saddiq Bey might be one of those under-the-radar moves that you look back at the end of next season, you're like, damn, that's a really good pickup for them. What are your thoughts on Saddiq Bey being kind of one of the main figureheads off the bench for the Pelicans?
Hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. Again, you gave us, you gave me the task of coming up with some, and I went down and I made a whole bunch of them, right? And then I started looking at it, I was like, God damn, Saddiq Bey is in a lot of these lineups, like a lot of these lineups, because what he does is he is positional flexibility and he's a skill set flexibility. Again, this is a big, like, sturdy guy like this. We're not talking, like you talk about the skinny guy. This is a big, sturdy guy who can play anywhere from the 2 to the 4 and can probably guard anywhere from like the 1 to some small ball 4s. And so, what up, Trayvon? And so there's a lot of positional flexibility that he gives you. And when you think about some of these lineups that the Pelicans, can throw out, when everybody's there and everybody's as healthy, he's a guy that you say, okay, can he play with Zion and Derik Queen, and can he play with Jordan Poole? Yeah, well, probably. Can he play with Trey Murphy? Yeah, he can play. He can, space the floor. Can he play with, with some of the guys that's more shooters? He can get to the rim. He can finish. He can do things. He can, dribble the ball and get to the rim. So, like, there's a lot to like about Saddiq Bey, and what it does, it gives just another insulation towards an injury, towards anything like that. Because if he's able to come back and play some good minutes, like, he's a guy that you can play for 20 minutes and you're like, oh man, we had to really extend him, 25 minutes. That's not bad for Saddiq Bey. And then also there are games where, like, all right, well, he just needed to play 10 minutes and it would be perfectly fine with that. And so there's just a lot of things to like about Saddiq Bey when you think about the flexibility of this team. I've been calling the Pelicans have been in a unique situation or a unique team since the day they drafted, actually since before they drafted Zion, because not too many teams in the NBA have the number one pick in the draft and Anthony Davis on the team about to get traded. Not a lot of people have that on their team. And since then, it's been unique situation after unique situation. You think about Zion's contract, you think about Joshua. There's just a uniqueness among this whole, organization, and it's emboldened of the city. And so when you think about Saddiq Bey, he just goes into that. You have does he play the 2? Does he play the 3? Can he play the 4? He can do all of that. And I think that's the kind of toughness that you bring. And your point about, how when Najee was playing, Najee just brought a different level of energy, and he brought a different level of skill set. Who was the best lob thrower? It was Najee. Who was he made like a whole bunch of weird threes at times. You're like, man, this is completely opened up the floor for the Pelicans and their team. And it felt like, okay, you found a gem. Well, now you bring in a guy who's going to do that, but can also shoot, can also be a knockdown shooter that's respected in the league, that people are going to have to look out for on the offensive side of the ball. And it's just going to give more space to guys like that. And so I love the addition of Saddiq Bey. I think that was a under the radar move that not a lot of people talked about it because it was attached to the Jordan Poole and in the trade. And then the Pelicans did all their other trades that everybody
didn't play last year.
The worst thing. And he didn't play last year. So he just kind of been under the radar doing things. But I think if he's able to get on the floor and give you some of the things that he gave you before his injury, I think that's a home run and the kind of move that, midway through the season, you're like, damn, the Pelicans did really well getting Saddiq Bey in that trade.
Right. And the last one, when you talk to the centers, and again, with the Derik Queen injury, I think this is more important than going into last season. As the growth of Carlo Makovich, you and I have talked about before, there are lineups where, and we'll get to them, where Carlo was starting to shoot the ball with confidence toward the end of last season. And it's hard to put a lot of stock into the last games of the season because some people are tanking and some people are resting for the playoff and things like that. So you're just looking at how people move on the court, right? And how demonstrative there is. If he can shoot the ball with confidence, because there were so many times where you'd be like, Carlo, shoot. Carlo, shoot. Why are you thinking? Things like that. If he can come back in this season, at least shooting it with confidence, I think that's a whole nother element to the Pelicans that you can open up from a lineup situation, right? When Looney's not shooting threes. Eves is not shooting threes. Zion, I want Zion to shoot 1 or 2 threes a game. Derik Queen, maybe 1 or 2 threes a game. But no other big man on the team is shooting threes. So if Carlo comes in and shoots 2 or 3 a game, that's a different skill set that he offers you that you can go to when you need certain different things. And so I really love what I saw with Carlo down the stretch. How do you come back year 2? And what have you added from that perspective? The biggest thing, we talk about the variance of Trey and Herb, and one being defense and one being offense, and Carlo and Eves being the same thing. The area that Carlo has to be better at this season, other than confidence, is his strength and on the boards and his confidence on the defensive end. Carlo is an athlete and not one of those guys where, again, because he's Caucasian, you say, oh, he's sneaky. He tries. Carlo can get up there, right? He can boom on people and he can block shots with the best of them. Every time Carlo was in the G League for the squadron, you look down at the stat sheet, you're like, Carlo had 30 and 10 and 5 blocks and 25. He's one of those guys that, again, that I don't think he realizes how athletic he is. And once that switch kind of flips and you always play aggressive, I think if it does flip for him, I think that's another piece that the Pelicans can turn to. Because as far as playing bigger guys, you still don't want Eves matching up versus Anthony Davis. You still don't want, for 35 minutes a game, Kevin Looney is going to play. Kevin Looney's going to play. He is going to play minutes because, again, there's different lineups that all these teams in the West with their 2 bigs, they're throwing out Sengun and Steven Adams. You don't want Zion and Eves fighting versus that. He is going to play. And so when you look at those 3, what do you look at the Pelicans bigs off the bench and the combination of those 2?
Yeah, I think with Derik Queen's injury, I think Carlo gets even more important. I think his development and what he's going to do gets even more important, right? Because I think, when you think about, we talk about Derik Queen and I think Saddiq Bey, obviously they're not the same size, they're not the same skill set, but you can play. I always thought Derik Queen is a 4 anyway, and so you can play Saddiq Bey as some small ball 4. You can get away with Trey as some small ball 4. You can do a lot with, like, if you want to play a small ball 4 to take up for Derik Queen. But I also think that you can. We saw when it was the Zion, Carlo, and Eves lineup that you can play Carlo at the 4, right? Because of his ability to space the floor. And so he can kind of step up and be into your into your backup 4. What up, Charles? Better late than never. Congratulations on that, my man. I think Carlo can come down and play some of that backup 4 as well. And I think, that's the point that you made about Carlo, about him like not really knowing how I think, again, that goes back to our confidence thing with Eves and with Carlo. Like the guys on the team that you like deferring to or like don't want to go too hard, they want you to do those things. And so I think that's gonna come with his with another year under his belt, and just another level of connectivity with the team after going through the season and things like that. Kevon Looney, I think he is definitely going to play, right? He just spoke about why he left Golden State, about being able to contribute, against bigger guys. He specifically mentioned like Steven Adams and guys like that, and not being able to play. And that's what drove him away from Golden State, and he chose New Orleans. Now, they gave him $8 million to say, okay, well, look, you're going to play, but there are games where you're not going to play. So here's $8 million to make sure that that you all right, which I think is fine. But I do think he is going to play, and he's going to contribute on the rebounding side and the defensive side. But I think that Carlo is the thing, the straw that stirs this all up, because he has a skill set that even Derik Queen, like, he is a capable catch and shoot 3-point shooter, and we saw it in the finals. Chet Holmgren and Miles Turner, both of them didn't even shoot well. They didn't even shoot well from the 3-point line. But the threat of that being there, opened the door for Tyrese Halliburton to get into the paint and start passing the ball out. It opened the door for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to get into the paint and do what he does. Just the threat of that. And so again, if you can come in and my goal for Carlo, get 2, 3, get 4 up a game. Like, let them fly when they're kicking it out to you. Let them fly, and because that threat is going to start to permeate through your opponent's game plans, and then you start to have that extra eye on you because you're in that corner space in the floor, and that can do wonders for you. It can do wonders for the guy, because if you're catching and shooting, you can again attack closeouts, and Carlo is an athlete. He will put it on. He will put it on your. Oh yeah, you will be on a poster if you're not paying attention to Carlo. And so he has a lot of tools that big men you don't see a lot, and when you do, those guys get paid very, very well. Ask Miles Turner what he just got. Ask Cat what he got. Ask those guys, those 3-point shooters, and Carlo has an element of rim protection that Cat doesn't have, and things like that. And Nas Reed don't like. There's a lot of things, and so I just think that Carlo has a lot to showcase, and he's going to be called upon to do a lot because Derik Queen is injured. You don't know when he's going to be able to get on the floor and be ready. Carlo, as all we know, is healthy. So you're going to be called upon first, at this point in time. And so I do think that Carlo has a big, big role to play in this Pelicans big man rotation.
Yeah, I mean, again, Derik Queen is injured, but I want to see Derik Queen and Carlo together, because those are two bigs that pass the ball well. Like, Carlo is starting to show you a lot of that. Kelly Olynyk, and again, I wish he would have been able to keep Kelly Olynyk on this team, because I feel like that would have been a good fit. But you do what you got to do. I think that those two playing off each other, there could be something there too. And so again, I look at Carlo, I'm you average the block per game in 19 minutes. Can you do that in year 2? Can you be the rim protection that makes up for the fact that Derik Queen's probably not going to be that good on the defensive end in year 1 or year 2 or maybe ever, right? Can you be the rim protection off the bench? Because I don't think Looney is that, and I don't see another rim protector on the team yet. So outside of Eves, if Eves goes down, you want to have multiple options of guys can at least back, so you don't have to change your entire style of playing on defense because you have to go back to not having a rim protector, which if you rewind 2 years ago for the Pelicans, you saw what that looked like, right? And so I think that element of Carlo's game fits well with Looney, fits well with Derik Queen. Really, you saw, to your point, you saw Carlo with ease last year. And so, like, he can play with everybody else on the roster. I think the year 2 from him is going to be huge. I see Westbeck Ray said, I don't remember seeing Carlo in Summer League. Carlo did not play in this Summer League. Carlo has been playing in Summer League for quite some time for the Pelicans. That's why it's crazy that his rookie season was last year. But anyways, let's get on to the last topic of the show. I think it's going to be the most fun. So, again, like, knock on wood, training camp hasn't started. Let's get to training camp. You figure a lot of these things out, like who's going to be the backup point guard, Jeremiah Fears, Jose Alvarado, or it's going to be whoever is not knocked out, concussed in the hospital by the end of training camp, possibly. Let's get to some of these lineups that you're looking for. So I'm gonna start with mine because it's the easiest one and it's the one you're not gonna see for like half the season. Let's start with why you like the lineup, and then what could be your concern with the lineup. I'm gonna start. DeJounte Murray, Herb Jones, Zion Williamson, Trey Murphy, and Yves Missi. Again, I don't care if DeJounte is the point guard or Zion's the point guard, but that's my backcourt. Those two, and then the other 3 are just rolling around, being athletic and being long and jumping all over the place. I think this is the most exciting 5-man unit the Pelicans can put out on the floor, just because everyone can run, everyone can jump out the gym. You know, if they get a steal and they're in transition, somebody is scoring. One of those 5 people is scoring in transition, and it's probably going to be on the top 100 dunks list like the Pelicans were again. I think that is the lineup. They're switchable on defense. I've seen Yves hold his own on point guards. I expect him to be even better in year 2. I've seen Zion hold his own. I think that is a lineup that you go into the playoffs feeling comfortable. And again, you may never see this lineup this year. You may never see 100% DeJounte Murray again. But this is the lineup that I look at and I say, man, that when Joe Dumars talking about being exciting and bringing electricity back to the Smoothie King Center, that's the lineup I think of. My concern with it, my thought process with it is like, is it going to be enough floor spacing? Like, is DeJounte going to catch and shoot? Is Herb going to catch and shoot? Is Yves going to be a threat on offense? That would be my question mark. But like the other part of that is like, I've seen how defenses defend Zion, and sometimes it don't matter. Like, you just got to be in a position to score, and Zion's going to find you because all 5 guys are collapsing on him. That's my first one. Let me see what you got.
All right, I do like that. I have a version of that lineup here as well. So I'm gonna take a different approach. I'm gonna give you some of my more fun lineups since we already been rolling for an hour. I'm gonna give you some of my more fun lineups, and I have names for my lineups. I have names for them. Okay. So this fun lineup I have named Swerve Bend That Corner. Okay. So the Swerve Bend That Corner lineup is features some young guys, young boys. I don't want to call them what society has called them, but young boys, and guys that can get up and down. So this Swerve Bend That Corner lineup consists of Jeremiah Fears, Jordan Hawkins, Trey Murphy, Zion, and Yves Missi. So my theory is that I want Yves Missi on the floor with Jeremiah Fears at all times because Jeremiah Fears in the Summer League, when Yves was playing, when in doubt, he just threw it at the rim. And I think he just kind of got a little thing with Yves there where it's like, all right, I know where that guy's going to be. I might not know where everybody else is going to be, but I know where that guy's going to be. I see Zion getting a rebound and throwing it to Fears, who is flying up the floor. Hawk, if we don't know anything, Hawk might not make no shots. He might not play no defense. But what he gonna do is run. He gonna run. He gonna beat everybody down the floor. So you got Hawk coming down the floor. Obviously, Trey and Hawk on the sides, and Yves being the live threat. and just a lot of things that can come out of there. Now, obviously, there are a lot of things that I worry about. That there are things that I worry about. Jeremiah Fears' defense can, along with Hawk being on the floor together, that is probably not a great recipe for things. Although Hawk has showed some things on the defensive side. I'm worried about the spacing between Jeremiah Fears and Yves Missi and Zion on the floor, but there are things. But I just think for me, that is a fun lineup. My swerve in that corner, whoa lineup. I just want to see him get up and down. That's my lineup. That's what I got.
It's crazy, and this how you know we related. I also named my lineup. So I have one. I have two. I have two that are basically a first unit, a starting unit, and like a second unit. So I'm just gonna combine them again. I got my point Zion lineup, where you got Zion at the one. Mm-hmm. This is like, I just want to see this for like 5. I think I sent a picture of you of these 5 players. I was like, just let me see what 5 minutes of this looks like. Zion at the one, Jordan Hawkins, Saddiq Bey, Trey Murphy, and Carlo McAvey. Just spread the floor.
That's hilarious because I have the same. I have the same thing, except I have Zion, Saddiq Bey, Jordan Poole, Jordan Hawkins, and Carlo. So I have almost the exact same lineup.
I want to see what the floor looks like completely spaced, 5 out. Because again, 5 out is great, especially when you have a player like Zion who I don't think there's one person in the league that can sit in front of Zion by himself at the top of the key. Guard, center, damn it, whatever it may be. I don't think there is one. Give me whoever you think the best defender is and put it in. I just don't think there's one. So if you got to bring help, who are you helping out? I just want to see what that looks like. And I'm going to tie that together with the let DQ kill. Look, I'm higher on Derik Queen. I'm higher than Derik Queen than a lot of the other players, just because, like, when you watched him in Summer League and his control and his footwork, it just felt like it was ahead of everybody else. And again, I'm not judging on Summer League. I'm just judging on a year's worth of tape where it just feels like his feet are more advanced than half the NBA in terms of how he can maneuver around the court at such a big body and in such control. And so if you got a bench lineup of Jordan Poole, Jordan Hawkins, Saddiq Bey, Derik Queen, and then Carlo at the again, I see some people in the comments all of this is assuming that somebody's going to get rebounds and somebody's going to be able to play defense. I'm looking to spread the floor with those 4. And again, it's the same thing as Zion, just in a different body type. Let him be the hub, and where are you helping off of in that prescription? So the point Zion, let DQ cook. The biggest problem, the biggest question mark is going to be defense and going to be rebounding. They're going to have to buy in from that standpoint. But put those two together and let's see what they got.
All right, yeah, I'm a fan of that lineup. I like let DQ cook. I like that. I'm all for that. I think that's the best way to get the best out of him. Is going to be to just let him be a hub with the second unit. So I have a lineup for you. This one I call "We Must Protect This House." All right. So this lineup is more of you're at home.
Okay.
You need a little bit of energy. We've seen the Smoothie King Center have the malaise, and because things are not going well, and so you need a spark plug. Who you gonna call? Jose Alvarado. So I have we must protect this house is Jose, Herb, Saddiq Bey, Trey Murphy, and Yves. All right. Okay. So what I think get out of this lineup is
so the Pelicans are up 25.
Okay. So this is the energy lineup. We must protect this house. So you're at home. This is an at-home lineup. Don't put this on the road. This is an at-home lineup. You got Jose bringing his flavor of energy. And I have my question for that, which I have in parentheses next is: was the shooting from last year real? Was it real? If it's real, if it's showing you that it's real, then he could be played in this lineup. So you have Jose Alvarado just bringing his form of energy, his form of getting the Smoothie King Center back in play. I have Herb Jones, who is a fan favorite, but also I want to remind. I was at the game. I saw it against the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yep, I know that.
Herb turned into Michael Jeffrey Jordan. I was in there on that rainy night. It was incredible. I want to see and Herb's getting in passing lanes, stealing, turning off defense to offense. I think you that's something that he can have to get that energy, the not just the 3-point energy power play, but the energy going on in the arena. And then you have Saddiq Bey and Trey for the 3-pointers, but Trey specifically, I think this is contingent on how well he's at as far as being an isolation player, being that predatory wing. But his ability to hit those threes from the bomb section, you know what I'm talking about? Those are the ones that get the crowd going, get the team going when he starts hitting those. And we've seen the Smoothie King Center when Trey gets it going. It is unbelievable. And then of course you have Eves for his blocks and his dunks. And I think just one of my fun play. Obviously, the list of what I'm worried about is very extensive on that lineup as well. But I just think that in a case where you need the Smoothie King Center up, the Pelicans are down maybe 6, and you're at home, and it's just like everybody's kind of sleepwalking. Jose, Herb, those guys turn the defense into offense, kind of sort of what we saw from like Najee. Remember Najee and Jose used to come in and change outcomes of games. Just a little bit of that, but with Jose, Herb, Saddiq Bey, Trey, and Eves Measy.
Okay. I got one more for you. This is, again, this is more like futuristic and probably only going to happen if like the Pelicans are leading and it's the middle of the season. I got Jeremiah Fears, Jordan Hawkins, Saddiq Bey, Trey Murphy, and Eves Measy. I call this lineup the point guard of the future.
Okay.
Jeremiah Fears, 18 years old. Jordan Hawkins, 21, 22 years old. Eves Measy, 21 years old. Trey Murphy, 25 years old. I want to see what this lineup looks like. If you space the floor for this young man, and again, this is probably going to happen in the middle of the season, not in crunch time, not in one of those situations where you're playing and you're some reason Zion's not on the floor and some reason someone. I want to see when you put the ball in his hands and you give him an NBA court with space, what is he able to do? Are you able to maximize and really be a floor general? Because that's what you're looking for out of this team. Again, if you're going to be a small guard in this league and you're going to be successful, you have to be elite at something. You have to be Dame Lillard. You have to be Steph Curry. You have to be elite at something, or you're going to fall between the cracks like every other small guard. And so a lineup like this, where you've got your rim protector, like you talk about pairing him with Jeremiah Fears, you've got your lob threat, but then you got people who can space on the floor, and you got shooting guards and guys who can defend that makes up for yourself on the other end. I just want to see what that looks like, just to kind of give me a glimpse of like, all right, let's see what this looks like in a year or two, right? And let's look what development looks like. So like that's a fun one for me. That's a one for me. You got one more? I see people with no Micah. Listen, I like Micah.
I was just about to say
Micah a lot. I gotta see him. I gotta see him play a little bit, shoot a little bit, and be a solid role player first. Whereas like Jeremiah Fears and Derik Queen, at least I know the number one thing that they're bringing, and I'm interested to see what it looks like with other pieces. Micah, I know he's a 3-and-D guy, but like I gotta see him be a 3-and-D guy before I start throwing him in these lineups. What you got?
Yeah, no, much respect to Micah Peavy, much respect to Kevon Looney, much respect to Trey Alexander. I don't really like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not crafting lineups with them, with those guys in it, right? That's just my thought. But my last and final one I got for you, I call it the pool party. I just think that there's gonna be a time where Jordan Poole is gonna have it rolling and gonna be the guy. And he's going to need some people at the party with him, at the pool party with him. So I got Jordan Poole. Okay. I got Trey Murphy. Okay. I got Saddiq Bey. I got Zion. And I have Carlo Makovich. And this is spacing for him, for Jordan Poole at the top to at the top of the key. And this is one of those lineups where I wouldn't mind Zion playing that dunker position. I trust Zion. I think he can do both. I don't want full.
Let me ask you this question.
Top.
How interested are you in seeing more and more of Zion as the screener role, especially with this cast of characters? Yes. That there's more people who can create for themselves.
Absolutely, because it doesn't matter who you put on Zion. That it's probably going to have to be a bigger player, just because he's ginormous and strong. So like you would have to have a bigger player. And if Zion is screening for Jordan Poole, who is still one of the more shiftier players in the league, that boy got handles. You got a handle on him. And if you got a guy like Jeremiah Fears, who has NBA handles, elite NBA handles right now, today, as of July 29th. 225. He has elite NBA handles. Going to be able to dance with that big man. And Zion can play out of that. If you switch, I'm down. I'm pinning the small guy. We've seen Zion pin and be relentless on the boards. So I think Zion as a screener absolutely needs to be more of the thing. I see somebody asking for my defense team. I actually have one, and then I'm done. That's my end. My defensive team at the end, I have Zion, Herb. I have Trey, but I have Micah Peavy there. So I will say I have there and question marks. I need to see it more. I need to see him kind of be when he does get into the rotation. I want to see when we're watching Micah Peavy, we're like, that guy needs to be on the floor. Like that needs to be something that needs to be seen more. But if he is, a lineup of Zion, Herb, Micah Peavy, DeJounte Murray, and Yves Missi, good luck. Good luck. I think that's my defense lineup. And so those are a couple of lineups that I'm interested in seeing. Again, the Pelicans have a lot of like interesting players that can be used in a lot of different ways as hubs. They have different hubs from different players that can do things on different lineups. There are a lot of different ways that the Pelicans can use these players. So I think we've come up with that. I want to see my Swerve in that corner lineup though. I want to see that. That's for sure. I definitely want to see that.
I'll end the show with one last one, and we'll get out of here. This is one that, again, like I don't know if you're gonna get to it more often, and I have a slash just because DeJounte's hurt, so I feel like I get to use a slash here. Small ball lineup. I don't know how much of this you're gonna see this year, just because, like, if you look at what the teams in the West did this summer, people didn't get smaller. Like teams got more and more bigs and drafted more and more wings and things like that. But I want to have one for the hell of it because I also watched the Pelicans play the Clippers last season and Zion guard Zubac at the 5 and then come down and play point guard. So I just want to see it. Give me Jose at the point guard / DeJounte. If DeJounte is healthy, I will put DeJounte in, but we're going to start Jose there for now. Herb Jones, Saddiq Bey, Trey Murphy, and Zion. If you can put that type of perimeter defense out, and Zion's the help guy, and Trey is doing enough on the defensive end because Trey is 6'10" himself and can jump out. He should be able to give you a little off-ball rim protector as well. If you're playing one of those small lineups where the bigs can't beat you, the biggest question is going to be rebounding. But what could you do with that lineup, right? Like that's another we need some energy. We need to get up and down the floor type lineup, and we know Jose is going to bring it. We know DeJounte is going to bring it. And this is one of those lineups where if you turn the ball up, we're going to score in transition. I just want to see what that looks like from a defensive standpoint. I'm a defensive guy myself, and so I just want to see what that looks like. I love Micah's defense as well. I think he's going to play at some points of this year. How much? Hopefully not a lot. That would mean that the Pelicans roster is healthy, so hopefully not a lot. But if he does, I'm interested in seeing how he can fit in as a rookie. But again, that's my defensive lineup that, again, I just want to see. I just want to see what you could do with a small ball lineup that everyone can switch. Everyone is ferocious on the defensive end, and you got enough scoring right there. And to your point, can Jose and Herb continue the three-point shooting? So with that being said, this was a fun exercise. We're going to have more exercise like this coming up with a couple of months until training camp and Eurobasket and Afro basket and training casket and Nerf basket, whatever it may be. That's all we got for you today. What you got left for the people, Garrett?
As always, you never know what people are going through, so give someone a smile today. This was fun. I think this Pelicans roster, it's if not good, it should be entertaining. There's a lot of guys that can do a lot of things with the ball, and I think it's going to be exciting if they could just get to. I think they've paid the tax. I don't want to. Let me knock on some wood.
Hey man.
The tax. Yeah, I just the NBA is so far away. And I just don't like the they say that the devil the idle hands is the devil's play shop. I think idle Pelicans roster is the devil's play shop. And so hopefully, they can get to training camp with everybody. But as always, follow myself at Garrick_Rattler. Follow my brother at Raphael_Rattler. Follow the page at NO_basketball, no E. That's on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you get your socials. Most importantly, subscribe to NewOrleans.basketball, and we'll see you guys on the next one.